Welcome, beautiful Paris Saint-Germain family. In today's video, we're reacting some Paris Saint-Germain versus Arsenal predictions, previews. Just see what they have to say. First of all, we got Birdie.
Us looking back at all of the games that have happened so far in the knockout rounds, Champions League final rather than a 1-0. So that'd be great. But Arsenal impressed me so much against Madrid that in my heart, I want to say PSG, but after seeing what they've done in this competition, I'm going to have to go Arsenal to make it to the Champions League final. I can't believe I'm saying it, but I think they're going to do it. I think the confidence of knocking out Real Madrid, I don't think you can underestimate how big of a boost that is. Even if, as we all know, Real Madrid did not play at their best, right? And Ancelotti's looking like he's going very, very soon, potentially as a result of this. But it doesn't matter. You've just beat the kings of the UCL. You are flying high, right? The Prem, it doesn't matter, right? You're finishing probably like top 3 minimum, even if you basically do nothing throughout the rest of the campaign. So this is where all of your focus and energy has got to go. And barring any more injuries, I think Arsenal are going to do it. Let's go to the other side of the draw.
So he's basically, he's saying it's a tight game. So, yeah. And he's edging it to Arsenal. A lot of it has to do with how they perform versus Madrid. And I think that's something that's happened to a lot of people. I rate what Arsenal did versus Madrid, but once again, people just overrate stuff. So they're overrating what Arsenal did versus Madrid. If you've watched Madrid this season, obviously spanking them 5-1. No other team has done it. But yeah, majority of the people that are predicting Arsenal to go through versus PSG are saying the same thing, basically saying that what Arsenal did versus Madrid, like now they're suddenly the best team in the world, which obviously very reactionary. But yeah, moving on to the next one. We got Football Carnage. Let's see what he has to say.
Let's get into it. The first matchup that I want to get into is PSG versus Arsenal. And I think both of these teams have a very good chance of making the finals. Like, to make a prediction here is basically like a flip of a coin. I think it's 50-50. I think both these teams match up against each other very well. Now, the first game is going to be at the Emirates, so I think that's an advantage for PSG, with the second leg being at their ground. Now, I want to start off with Arsenal, right? They're sitting second in the Prem. They are the perennial bridesmaid of the Premier League, right? And these guys have come second 3 years in a row. There's a lot of pressure on Arsenal to start winning some silverware, right? Mikel Arteta hasn't really been able to get over the line. They've spent a lot of money, and even though they've made some good progress, I don't know if he's the manager that's going to be able to lead Arsenal to the promised land. But they have a very good team, and they can cause PSG a lot of issues, right? Now, where Arsenal's strengths are, in my opinion, is that midfield and their defense. I think that their attack is very weak. If Bukayo Saka is not on smoke, then I just don't really see them being able to score many goals, right? I think Mikel Marino's done a very good job at being a makeshift.
Yeah, and I agree with that. That's something that I've said as well. Questioning Arsenal's attack in this game. A lot of Arsenal fans say, I've seen some comments like, "Oh, we scored 5 versus Madrid. We have scored 7 versus PSV." I don't know what that's supposed to mean.
Shift number 9, but their left wing is dead, right? Martinelli is okay. Trossard is solid, but if Arsenal want to have any chance of going past PSG, their midfield and their back line is going to be the area that carries them, right? Because that midfield is very physical, right? You got Declan Rice, who dropped 2 man of the match performances against Real Madrid. You got Martin Odegaard, who's more of a creative kind of player that, is good with link up play. And then you got Thomas Partey, who's been very good this season, right? Arsenal's back line. You got Urian Timber, who's at right back, arguably the best in the world. You got Saliba. And then on the left side, you got Miles Lewis Skelly, who has just made his debut this season and has just never looked back. Like, the guy is playing at a damn near world-class level already. So Arsenal do have some very good pieces, right? I know that Gabriel Magalhaes is injured, right? He's not going to be available for either of these games. I know that Arsenal don't have a clear-cut striker, right? Like Kai Havertz injured, Jesus injured. But Marino, I mean, let's be honest, Marino has looked better than what those two have when they were fit. So I don't really see that as much of a disadvantage. But I think where Arsenal can hurt PSG is how good they are defensively and how physical that midfield is. Now,
Yep, I agree with that. I think that's Arsenal's main strength, and obviously against our strength. Arsenal, compact, very good defensively. Playing against Paris Saint-Germain, very offensive, dynamic as well. So it's a strength versus a strength, and let's see if it's defense or attack that wins.
to look at PSG, right? These guys have already won League One. We know that that league is theirs to just dominate, right? They spend the most money, they have the best players, and we know that the Champions League is really the goal of PSG because they win their domestic competitions every single season, damn near. And they are invincible right now, but I think that when you look at what PSG have going on, it's very impressive. And I know that Arsenal versus PSG was a matchup that happened in the UCL league stage where Arsenal did get a 2-0 win and Arsenal did look very dominant. But I think this time it's different, right? Dembele wasn't available for that game, and there was also no Kvaratskhelia. So this PSG team, they did start off a bit shaky, and they did have a pretty hard run in the league stages of the UCL. But lately, they have been on smoke. I think that PSG are the most technically gifted side that are left in this competition. I actually think that they're the most technically gifted team in the world. Every single player that they have in that starting 11 is very good on the ball. It's crazy the way that they're able to build up and how nice they're playing football. Like Luis Enrique has got those guys clicking. Now, it's crazy to think that the team that just lost Mbappe on a free have gotten better. But that's the case. And the thing is, there's no main focus of that PSG attack. Like, they can kill you from so many different possibilities. But just to run through their key players, I mean, Ousmane Dembele is playing at a Ballon d'Or kind of level. Desiree Doué, the young kid, he has been balling. He is one of the best young players in the world. They brought Kvaratskhelia in from Napoli in January. Barcola, that midfield is crazy. Vitinha, baller. João Neves, Fabio Ruiz, their back line, Hakimi at right back, Marquinhos, William Pacho as the center backs, and then Nuno Mendes at left back with Donnarumma in goal. I think this PSG team is very scary. But we do have to give Arsenal a lot of credit because a lot of people didn't predict them to get past Real Madrid, right? Even though Real Madrid have been trashed this season, you still have to give Arsenal their flowers for how dominant they looked across those two legs.
100%.
And if it was not for Courtois having a masterclass, Arsenal could have won by like 7 goals against Real Madrid. Like, let's just be very honest here. So I am going to have to give the advantage, though, to PSG. And my prediction is for them to advance 3-2 on aggregate over Arsenal. Now, I think the way that this game goes over both legs, especially the first one, Arsenal are not going to look like a better team than PSG. It'd be impossible, right? Like, they're not going to be able to outplay PSG. They don't have that kind of technical ability to do.
Actually, that's something that Arsenal believe. I think Arsenal believe that they will have another dominant performance as they had in the group stage. Like in that group stage game, Arsenal had more shots on target, one big chance. We don't have a single big chance. Even though we had more possession, they had more control of the game. That's not going to be the case for this game, though.
So, but what I think Arsenal do have is a very great defense and a very physical midfield. So they can bully PSG, but I just think that PSG are going to be able to control the ball so well that they'll be able to break down Arsenal, even if they do play a low block. Now, we saw PSG look a little bit shaky in that second leg against Villa. Like, Villa almost did a remontada, right? But I think that PSG underestimated them. I think PSG thought that after that first leg, they were going to just cruise through and make the semis. And they almost bottled it. So that is something to keep in mind because their defense is not as good as Arsenal's, right? Arsenal will look to hit them on the counter with Saka, Martinelli. And if PSG are not paying attention, and if they do lose the ball high up the pitch, they can be got at. I mean, we've saw it happen just in the last leg. Well, just in the last round, I mean. So
Yeah, because we are a team when we're very good, we're very organized. And when we're not organized, we're bad. And that's what happened in some moments versus Aston Villa. That's what happened in some of the recent league games for Paris Saint-Germain. It's just that the organization just loses. So the line between the defense and the midfield became just too big. And it's way too easy for opponents to do something. So no, 100%. Paris Saint-Germain, obviously, with us playing very high press, wanting to have the ball, high counter press, we are going to have a high line. We are going to give away chances to Arsenal, both at home and away. But obviously, we have to be very focused on that. But yeah, that would be key for Arsenal in this upcoming game.
definitely not going to just think that PSG are going to go and dominate Arsenal, but I just think that their attack and their midfield is just too good. And then you have Hakimi that's going to be overlapping, right? That's going to be a lot for Miles Lewis-Skelly to deal with on the left side, right? Because he's going to have to go against Kvaratskhelia or maybe a Ousmane Dembele with Hakimi overlapping. And then we saw when PSG beat Liverpool, Nuno Mendes had Mohamed Salah, who's arguably the best player in the world, in his pocket. Mohamed Salah could do nothing against Nuno Mendes. And I think he will do a good job against Saka, right? Mendes is physical. He's very fast as well. So that's going to be a very exciting matchup to watch. But I think what does give Arsenal some hope is that PSG are not clinical. Yes, they score some very good goals.
Good point. Good point. I think, what was that? I checked it recently. I think Dembele's had 9 big chances missing the UCL and Barcola 8. That's been a tradition for PSG in the UCL since last season. Last season, very unclinical. This season as well, very unclinical. Obviously had scoring streak versus Brest and so on, but still, we do create a lot of chances, but we do miss a lot of chances compared to like an Arsenal, who are very clinical. Barcelona as well, very clinical as well.
But it's like when you saw in the Liverpool matchup, right? They were peppering Allison in that first leg, but they weren't able to put the ball into the back of the net, right? Like they're kind of wasteful. But I do think that, again, they're just so good on the ball that they will find the spaces to be able to get opportunities. So, I mean, look, we'll see, right? David Raya is a very good goalkeeper. Same thing with Donnarumma. And again, I think it's a coin toss. I'm leaning more towards PSG here, but I think I can also see Arsenal making the finals as well. And it's crazy to think, bro, if PSG end up winning the UCL this year after Mbappe leaves, the first season after he's gone, Mbappe is going to get cooked. But for me, the key matchups are Miles Lewis-Skelly, right? What is he going to do against Kvaratskhelia and Ousmane Dembele and Hakimi when they're attacking from that right side, right? This is where we're going to really see what he's about, even though he did have a very 2 good games against Real Madrid. And I think, this guy has announced himself to the world in a way that we haven't seen before. So, look, a lot of pressure on Arsenal here. This is the last chance for them to win a trophy this season, whereas PSG, they've already won their league. So let's see what goes on, right? I think just from an injury POV, right? Arsenal definitely do have more injuries than PSG do. But nonetheless, it's going to be a very good 2 games. And yeah, I got PSG going through, but I think that Arsenal are going to make it very difficult for them. 3-2 on aggregate. I want to know what you guys are saying.
Yeah, good prediction here. No stuff about Arsenal, no stuff about Paris Saint-Germain. Can get that from his opinions. And he mentioned before about Hakimi, Vara, potentially Dembele dropping to that side versus Skelly. Paris Saint-Germain obviously do create the most chances on that right-hand side. You even have Desiree Doué. And on the left, we're a bit more direct with Fabian Ruiz, Nuno Mendes, Barcola, or Khvicha Kvaratskhelia, whoever plays there. So, now it will be a very tough game for both Skelly and Timber. This is the game which will, define how good they are as fullbacks. And like Saliba won't get tested that much in this game. Just like Konate and Van Dijk barely got tested in the Liverpool game because we play without a striker. It's the striker that, is attacking the centre-backs and the centre-backs defending versus the striker. That's another key thing in this game with Ousmane Dembele. Saliba, one of Arsenal's best players, you're not going to be fully using him because he's not going to be facing a normal striker. He's going to be facing Osman Dembele, who's going to occupy spaces where a striker does not go, where sometimes Saliba cannot be following him. But yeah, let's move on to the next one. Next up, we have Rivizak. Let's go.
We really did win that match 3-0 in the first leg. I knew there was no chance for Madrid. I know it's football and anything is possible, but another reason why I knew Madrid basically had no chance is because Arsenal's defense is actually incredible. Despite that horrible Saliba mistake, they proved themselves time and time again. The last time they conceded 3 or more goals was back in December 2023. After all that talk online and through the press, I just knew it wasn't going to end well. I had a feeling Saka would miss that penalty just because of Euro 2020 flashbacks, but he redeemed himself well with a very classy goal to put Arsenal up front. And then Martinelli and have been performing also to add even more excellent. Although Arsenal do have an incredible record against PSG, like I mentioned, PSG have very much changed their ways since the last time they faced, and are now looking like one of the hottest teams in Europe. Really found his footing to become one of the best players in 2025, but also signing Kvaradona from Napoli over the January transfer window has to be one of the best signings. He had so much pace in the attack and is one of the most dangerous threats in the world of football. To the future options on the wings, Barcola and Doué have been superb. His goal against Aston Villa in the first leg was really something else. When it comes to the midfield, they've got Portuguese excellence, from Vitinha's creativity to João Neves. Even at left back, staying on topic with Portugal, Nuno Mendes has been one of the best left backs this season without a doubt. Many more individual brilliance this team has, and Luis Enrique has done a great job with them, already securing the Liga title this early on, being the only undefeated team in all of Europe's top 5 leagues. In my opinion, they were looking to be the absolute favorites to make it to the final stage, but I am starting to change my mind on that after seeing the quarterfinal matches. Against Aston Villa in the second leg, the defense started to crack. If it weren't for Donnarumma's brilliance, I think Aston Villa would have completed the comeback. And what a moment that would have been for Unai Emery, as Luis Enrique haunted him in the past when he coached PSG himself. It's an interesting road PSG have had in the knockouts though. In the round of 16, they had to face a Premier League club Liverpool, quarterfinals Premier League club Aston Villa, now semifinals a third Premier League club in a row, Arsenal. And although I hate to admit they looked like the better team against Liverpool in both legs, even when Liverpool did defeat them in France. But with Aston Villa putting off such an incredible fight, it makes me think that Arsenal can break down this side, especially if they defeated.
You know, that's obviously one of the things I disagree that a lot of people are saying now. It's how much they bring up that Villa game. If we go to any other prediction and to any other Barca Inter prediction, they're not going to bring up that second leg from Barca. Obviously, because it was 2 goals away compared to PSG, where it was only 1 goal. But I don't understand why people keep bringing up, like, we were 5-1 up against Villa 30 minutes in at Villa Park, you know, the toughest 30 minutes of the game that was supposed to be. And then obviously we slacked off. That is not good. But they're taking it to underrate the talent of this team, underrate what this team has done, like that game versus Liverpool. Like, everyone knows we're not going to be arrogant versus Arsenal. Everyone knows we're not going to do that versus Arsenal. But yeah.
The most decorated club in Champions League history in the manner they did. I mean, Declan Rice, the dedication he has for the club is extraordinary. The confidence he built against a club like Real Madrid as well. That's elite mentality. Scoring his first 2 free kicks in his entire career in the same match. Now, it's no secret by now, a downside Arsenal still have is the injuries. And Thomas Partey will not be playing in the first leg against PSG, as he did pick up a yellow card in the match against Real Madrid's second leg. That's definitely a huge loss. Although he's not in the spotlight compared to some other players on the club, he was still a key element in destroying Real Madrid. This one, when you think about it, is so 50-50. I mean, PSG obviously don't really need to focus on their domestic league anymore, now that they've already won it. And Arsenal as well. Obviously, they're not in the most secure position in second place, but still, they're obviously going to be striving to prioritize the Champions League now. That's one of the greatest trophies you can ever win in club football. And their schedule prior to the Champions League first leg semi-final is not the most difficult. There are so many reasons to back both of these teams, but with everything I've just given, I think it's safer to go for Arsenal here to reach the final. I'm going to say the first leg finishes in a 2-1 victory and the second finishes in a 2-2 draw. Going to be an absolutely dramatic matchup without a doubt, but Arsenal will be the ones victorious at the end. And another reason why I'm backing them, it might be silly, but because of history. 19 years ago, the only other time Arsenal played Real Madrid in the Champions League, they defeated them and made it to the final the same year. Again, both these clubs have not had success in this competition in particular. We'll see if either of them can lift the trophy.
Okay. Many stuff he said there. First of all, his reasoning, like, he's, once again, a lot of recency bias, which I've seen a lot of people, like, people's opinion has changed a lot after, for example, what Arsenal did versus Madrid and PSG did versus Villa in the second leg after we were up 5-1. I don't know why people use that as recency bias so much. And second of all, what Arsenal beat Madrid in 06, that gives them a chance they're going to win this time. Then he said something more. What was it?
Going to be an absolutely dramatic matchup without a doubt, but Arsenal victory and the second finishes in a 2-2 draw. Going to be an absolutely dramatic matchup without a doubt, but Arsenal will be the ones victorious at the end. And another reason why I'm backing them, it might be silly, but because here, I give it back Arsenal to make it to the final. And a competition in particular, we'll see if either of them can lift the trophy. Best of luck to both, but I'm going to back. Both these clubs have not had success in this.
Yeah, both of these clubs have not had success. I agree with that. Both Paris Saint-Germain and Arsenal don't have a Champions League. But if this was any other tie, this guy or anyone else would bring in Champions League experience. Yes, we haven't won the Champions League, but we've been in the Champions League semi-final 4 out of 6 times. That means we have experience in this stage. This same team was in the Champions League semi-final last season with Luis Enrique. But because it's PSG, we shall not mention it. I mean, he's going with a tight Arsenal victory, as losing at the Emirates 2-1 and 2-2 at the back. Yeah. Moving on to the next one. Boovy, or how you pronounce it, he's a City fan. Let's see what he has to say about the game.
Final predictions: Arsenal versus PSG, Barcelona versus Inter Milan, and we're going to make a bold prediction on who will win the Champions League in 2025 in Munich. This competition, I feel, has been absolutely fantastic in the knockout rounds. The amount of goals, the excitement, the Dortmund-Barcelona game, Bayern Inter Milan, it was outrageous. And then you've got Arsenal upsetting everyone and beating the champions of Europe. It was a crazy last round. And ultimately, it's led to a 4-team semi-final part of the tournament where all the teams can win this Champions League. They're all very, very level. If it was Arsenal versus Barcelona in the final, I feel like it'd be quite a level game. Inter Milan versus PSG in the final, it'd be a very level final. You feel that almost every side left has got a 25% chance. They've all got weaknesses. They're all going to concede goals and have little moments, but they've all got quality as well. It's a really, really exciting end to the Champions League. We're going to start off with Arsenal versus PSG to get into the final against Arsenal. I actually can't believe it. I think player for player, Arsenal got a better 11. They play in a
I think even most genuine Arsenal fans could say that PSG has a better 11. And I just heard what he's going to say.
a more intense league. They've got players that can
Play in a more intense league. Well, if that's part of the argument, we beat Liverpool, the best team from the intensive Premier League. Like, this has been my issue throughout all of these videos, reacting to other people's prediction about PSG. It's always an agenda. That's my main issue. Like, if you were to say, okay, look, he said Arsenal have a better team. Okay, that's his opinion. It's somewhat subjective, even though it's not. But yeah, sure, that's an opinion. But this intensive league, that just an agenda. That because he's a City fan, you know, Premier League fans, they live in this imaginary world where if you play in the Premier League, you're suddenly better than your opposition strictly because you play in the Premier League, which makes absolutely zero sense. Especially it's been disproven by PSG this season, beating Liverpool and Villa and City already. Oh, yeah.
arrive at this fixture with a level of intensity that PSG will always miss out on playing in the French league. Their front three is a
Again, I don't understand this playing outside of in the French league, the intensity they're gonna miss out. We just knocked out Liverpool. I don't understand these arguments, man. I don't understand these arguments. Like, when we lose the Champions League game, it's not because of our league. It's because we bottle it. Because there's immense pressure on this club. Because over 3 billion, I don't know, maybe has been spent since 2017 pushing for this Champions League. Maybe that immense pressure. League in.
electric PSG, and they absolutely killed Aston Villa at points with their fullback bombing on. But Aston Villa, we have to be completely neutral. It's not like Aston Villa lost 5-0 to PSG. Aston Villa were one concert header away from getting
Aston Villa were 5 down to Paris Saint-Germain before Paris Saint-Germain let Villa get back into the game. Villa were trying for 30 minutes in that second leg, and PSG were just cooking them. When we stopped trying, when we became arrogant, we were like, the game is over. That's when Villa came back. And another thing is, they were one concert header away. Do people not know that Villa scored with only 1 goal remaining in the 55th minute? They had 35 minutes plus extra time to get a goal. But when we were like, all right, it's 1 goal, we got to get serious. We played football. They had a couple of chances. We had a couple of chances. We defended well. We survived well. And they didn't get a goal. But yeah, we were one concert header away.
knocked out potentially themselves as well, or at least going to extra time. And Aston Villa, brand new to the competition. They're what, 6th in the Premier League? They haven't had the greatest Premier League campaign. It's not like they're the champions of England. It's not like they're Liverpool, right? Aston Villa, I've got some players I'd even question are even good enough to be playing Champions League football at this level, like Rashford, like John McGinn. With all due respect, Onana as well. It's his first Champions League quarter-final. He was fantastic, but they played into PSG's hands. They were pumping things long all the time. They weren't able to keep the ball, and defensively a little bit naive. And Torres didn't have the best game either. So PSG were very close to getting knocked out by Villa, who were absolutely electric at Villa Park. Arsenal aren't going to have those problems. They aren't. Now, I'm not saying Arsenal are going to keep 2 clean sheets and it's going to be simple. Look at the Saliba.
And my message, this is to the players, man. Look at what you have done. The narrative now, maybe, I don't know, maybe our players like this underdog gimmick that they don't want to be, strong favorites. They want the pressure to be on the opposition as well. But message to the players, this is what you have done. Because you slacked off when you were 5-1 up. You've made all of these people, you've given them ammunition for their agenda against PSG because he's back. They've always had, They don't like PSG. They don't want to say good stuff about PSG. They saw what we did to Liverpool. They saw what we did to Villa in the first leg. Put the agenda to the side. Now that we were close to losing, now agenda is back up. Ligue 1 is not an intensity league. Arsenal playing intensity league. All of these gimmicks are back now.
Mistake at the Bernabeu. But
So
Arsenal will
annoying.
definitely start this tight with a defensive unit that PSG won't be able to run rings around. Dembele won't have the same freedom that he had against Villa, particularly in Paris as well. Same with Doué. If he comes on, he has to be starting, in my honest opinion. Barcola as well. They're not going to have the same freedom. And then it's like if Declan Rice can have the kind of performance where he's intercepting things, dominating the midfield against Vitinha, against Neves and Ruiz, you can have a go. Aston Villa went man for man at points into the PSG midfield, and they won a large part of it. It wasn't the best PSG performance.
Again, this is another wrong narrative that a lot of people are running away with. That Aston Villa, when they got their 3 goals, when they had the momentum in the game, it was because they were out dueling us. No. I mean, even if you look at the goals they scored, it was mostly because the line between the defense and the midfield was way too open. Tielemans got it in between. McGinn got it in between. And then it's obviously individual mistakes, like Fabian lunging in on Rashford, Vitinha, I don't know what he's doing. You could say it's a good dribble from Rashford as well. But once again, this out-duel. Again, it's a Premier League fetish they have. They think we're playing rugby or something. Always this physicality thing. Aston Villa did not beat us that game because of their physicality. Aston Villa did not beat us because they were out-dueling us. Aston Villa beat us because for majority of that game, they wanted to win that game more than us. That's why they won that game. We slacked off. And Aston Villa rightfully came back into the game and got 3 goals. But no, they out-physicaled us, out-duel. Rice will cook Vitinha with his 6'3", huge. Yeah, PSG got no chance, man.
In terms of their midfield, in my honest opinion, they managed the game in the final 20 minutes very, very well. But it's Arsenal side far better in midfield. I know they haven't got Thomas Partey in the first game, but they're going to control the ball far better. And I think Saka's better than all the wingers that PSG have got, and then Saliba's better than all the defenders.
Just another Premier League glazer, man. It's tiring at this point listening to these people. I wish we played the team not from the Premier League, because then this glazing would go away. But because it's another Premier League team, it's another glazing session. Saka better than all of our wingers.
PSG have got. I think it's just simple sometimes. I think Arsenal will score early in the game against PSG at home. They might take a 2-goal lead to Paris, and I think maybe they concede 1 in Paris. I think they could go through 2-1, 3-1. I think that there's a golfing quality between the champions of France and Arsenal. I really do. I think.
And he had to say champions of France as well, just to cook, the Ligue 1 agenda even more. All right, this is the 3rd prediction video so far. This is by far the most disgusting, filled with agendas as usual. Premier League glazing. By his prediction, I think he predicted 3-1, so like a 2-0 at the Emirates and a 1-1 at the Parc. Oh my god, man. These people are so delusional. Because these people who have understood, they don't actually understand football. They're just out here spewing agenda, just talking more from emotions than actual rational logic. Like, he's not saying this based upon how Arsenal have been performing this season or PSG in the bigger games and so on. No, it's strictly agenda. Saka better than all of our wingers. Arsenal have a better 11. Ligue 1 has no intensity. Arsenal's going to score 3 goals and we're not going to score. We're only going to score 1 at the back.
PSG are always going to arrive at these fixtures with the first 50% of the game. They're going to be electric, and they're always going to flag in the final 5 to 10 minutes. That is to say, Luis Enrique's got his PSG side to a level of athleticism and fitness that is far better than the years before, 5-10 years before, even with Neymar, Mbappe, and Lionel Messi. It's the fittest, most balanced PSG side of all time. Not being derogatory and saying PSG aren't massive favourites against Arsenal. I just think Arsenal cut above. They've got Declan Rice in outrageous form. We just powered through the Real Madrid mid.
When we don't have players in outrageous form, we don't have Donnarumma, where he's been doing in the knockout stages so far. We don't have Hakimi with 7 GA in the UCL this season. We don't have Nuno with 4 goals in the Champions League this season. We don't have Vitinha with like 3 Champions League man of matches in a row. We don't have João Neves, who's been a sensation for PSG this season. We don't have Desiree Doué. No, but Arsenal got Declan Rice, man.
Dominated them. Saka was fantastic. Martinelli as well. It's a big question mark. If there's no injuries to the Arsenal side, if he can manage that Partey midfield, someone like Jorginho can get on the ball, keep things ticking. Maybe they move Marino back and play Trossard down the middle. One of those decisions. I still think Arsenal are big favourites, especially in the home game. If they can manage it in Paris.
Big favourites. So he went saying that a lot of people are saying PSG are big favourites to Arsenal are big favourites.
Versus Inter is a really, really juicy tie. Inter have got.
Well, that was the end of it. I mean, I could compare this guy to, I think, McKenna, that Liverpool dude, or that Chelsea dude. I don't remember his name, but all of them, just the same basic person, just generic white English UK dude. Glazes the Premier League, glazes everything about the Premier League. Arsenal now favorites, predicting a 3-1, basically just discrediting PSG. I mean, it's usual from these Premier League fans. I don't expect anything smart to come out of them sometimes. But yeah, let's go to the next one. We have the give and go now. So let's see their prediction.
Hello and welcome back to the Give and Go. I'm your coach Reynolds with my boy
Soltero, what's up, y'all?
the UEFA Champions League. Let's clap it up.
Come on, bro.
For the
Come on.
4 finalists. At the end of the day, we have 4 incredible finalists. I did this coverage in my solo episodes, but just to quickly summarize where each team is at right now, what they're looking to achieve in this tournament. Arsenal and PSG have never won this tournament, bro. Never. And they're looking to achieve massive, massive glory. Barcelona hasn't lifted one or even gone to the final since Messi left the club. Imagine if they're able to win it. And Inter Milan, or Serie A in general, Italy in general, hasn't won a trophy, a UCL trophy since 2009, 2010. It does feel like for the first time in a long time, we're going to get a very fresh, a very exciting winner with a team that has a fan base that, I mean, I think all 4 fan bases are pretty chaotic, bro.
This is the most excited I've been for a Champions League semifinal in over 10 years, bro. Because of what you just said. The best football game in the galaxy is going to be this Tuesday at 2 p.m. Central Time. Arsenal in London hosting PSG. As you said, both teams seeking their first Champions League title in their club's history. Both teams have only been to one final as well. Arsenal in 2006, PSG in 2020. But you can just feel the anticipation, the desperation for both sides to get.
And that is 100% true in the sense of both PSG and Arsenal, like this matchup. It's 2 clubs that have never lifted the Champions League, that have always dreamt of lifting the Champions League. As you mentioned, Arsenal in the final in 2006, Paris Saint-Germain in the final in 2020. So, yeah, we're both desperate for it. Paris Saint-Germain, it's more about the long desperation. Obviously, QSI came in 2012, but there's been constant pressure by the Champions League since 2017, since we bought Neymar and Mbappe. Arsenal, it's more desperation out of... It's not that they've been focusing and pushing for the Champions League a lot. It's more that, you know, they were in a very bad situation. Arteta came in. They have made a lot of solutions, fixed a lot of problems, still not won a trophy. You know, once again, not winning the Premier League. So now it's more desperation, obviously, for the Champions League this season for Arsenal. And obviously, it would be absolutely huge for the Arteta project at Arsenal. So, no, the Champions League would mean a lot for both of these clubs. It would mean a very lot for Barcelona and Inter Milan in the other bracket as well.
Get to that final, and they have to go through each other to do it, and there's possible glory at the end of it, but they'll have to get through either Barcelona or Inter. Arsenal, PSG, man, my eyes are going to be glued to that screen. I cannot wait.
That's going to be incredible. Let's start with that matchup, folks. Let us know who do you think is going to win PSG, Arsenal, down below. UCL coverage on the Give and Go. Give us a like, subscribe, and everything. It's going to get crazy. Let's start PSG versus Arsenal with the first game being at the Emirates Stadium. When I look at this matchup, I really end up asking myself, is this going to be a chess match like how we saw with Liverpool versus PSG, where it was low scoring, very tight defenses, and doing the absolute most brilliant offensive work to try to break the other team's defense? Will we see something like that, or will it open up like that Villa PSG matchup where it just became chaotic, it became raucous, and, you know, moments of brilliance and moments of mistakes, you could say, took part in this game?
I think it will be more tactical. I think, especially with Arsenal being more of a defensive side. And obviously, the thing with Aston Villa, that was more in the second leg when it was 5-1, you know, and everything happened. But for majority of the game, obviously, Aston Villa were the defensive side and just letting us have the ball. And it was us controlling the game and controlling the ball and trying to, you know, find gaps and holes in their defense and so on. So, no, I think this game would definitely be more similar to Liverpool. Lower, I don't know about lower scoring, because the game... Both of our games versus Liverpool definitely should be high scoring. I think we should have won it before extra time, but Liverpool should have gotten more than 1 goal, I think, on aggregate as well. So, no, I think it was a bit, you could say maybe unfortunate for both teams that, you know, that tie only ended 1-1.
I'm curious to know what you think, how this game will look overall, because I think the shape of the match will determine who ends up on top.
Whether it's low scoring or high scoring, I'm not sure, but I do know this is going to be just as tight as PSG Liverpool. You look at Arsenal, they've been able to go very close to Liverpool this season. They're the second best team in England. Sure, they're not the best, but they've shown themselves to be a really good offensive powerhouse throughout this entire season. And for PSG, well, they're the best team in France, and they've really showcased what they have to bring, specifically in this 2025 calendar season. Now they're going head to head. And honestly, bro, when you look at the 11 on both sides, there's not a lot of difference between them. And, you know, I kind of want to go through it very, very quickly. Let's start with the goalkeepers, Donnarumma and Raya. So far, honestly, I think they're both pretty similar. So we can kind of say that's pretty even. Going up to the back line, honestly, I think PSG and Arsenal, their center backs, I would say fairly similar. PSG's fullbacks are a little bit more offensive, but Arsenal's fullbacks this season have been fantastically balanced, and I think they're going to be able to handle both Hakimi and Mendes. When you look at Arsenal's midfield, I think it's a little bit more offensive, but PSG has such balance in that midfield with Fabian Ruiz and Vitinha. And then up front, I think PSG have a little bit more to give offensively.
A little more. I mean, the only competition we have with Arsenal attack is Saka. Martinelli and Merino or Havertz, even if he was fit, would not be a competition. For the centre backs, I would give it to Arsenal. Like these people, I don't know how they are still rating Marquinhos in Big 2025, and our fullbacks, no, they're much better. Like on another level. But shout out to Timber and Lewis Skelly.
Dembele, Doué, maybe Barcola comes off the bench. And Arsenal, I think, is a little bit weaker offensively in that front line. But I mean, you still have players like Bukayo Saka. Martinelli has found a little bit of form recently. And Mikel Merino has been a shining light in that false nine position. I see this game being very, very tight.
Yeah, I mean, let's look at the whole lineup argument because I think that's where we'll see who ends up becoming an X factor. I'm so curious to see how Merino performs. I think he will determine a lot about Arsenal's success. He was incredible in those two legs versus Real Madrid. He stepped up, scored that beautiful third goal at home, and then his hold-up play has proven to be really, really good. And he's showing different variations up top of himself that I didn't know he had in him. And I thought he's been very impressive. But can he do it again, bro? That's my question. Can he do it again against, I would say, a much better defense than Real Madrid and PSG? I'm curious to see how he does that. And then the midfield situation. Can Vitinha control the midfield over two big games, including John Neves as well? They were incredible in that first leg against Aston Villa, but we saw what happened when Vitinha especially loses composure in the midfield. In that second leg against Aston Villa, they took over, they imposed themselves, and they completely shifted the momentum of the match, damn near coming back. Who steps up in the midfield? Can they maintain that consistency? I want to see it from PSG because they do have the better midfield, but I think that's going to determine a lot of the success from PSG's side specifically, and it's something to look to expose if you're Arsenal. Defensively, though, I think it's pretty similar. Obviously, PSG does have that X factor with their fullbacks, who've proven to be very, very deadly and very, very good, but Arsenal's defense, I think, has arguably been the best one in the entire UEFA Champions League, given that they only allowed one goal to Real Madrid, a giveaway from Saliba, and then, PSV before that was just a joke. They've been great so far, and I think they can definitely essentially balance each other out in that sector of the pitch.
So who do you have going through then?
God, man, such a loaded question.
Yeah.
I have Arsenal. I have Arsenal going through. I think the energy, the belief from the fans, I cannot wait. Just to say, I cannot wait to see what Emirates Stadium looks like in that first leg. I cannot wait to hear because the belief I'm hearing just on the streets, man, from Arsenal fans here in the States and online is ridiculous. I think that's going to impose itself on the team as well. And then Arsenal themselves, I think, have shown less flaws, especially defensively this whole tournament, that I think PSG will ultimately struggle with. PSG has been on an incredible run, and my God, credit to them for the things that they've done. Unfortunately, that run might prove to be way too tough to beat 3 Premier League teams in a row.
Yeah.
We're talking about a historic team, which I will say, if PSG does that, then I will give them that respect. I will, because 3 back-to-back Prem teams is ridiculous. I do that ultimately. That is too much of a tough task to achieve. And Arsenal, with the way that they've been playing, I think I've shown all the signs that they will be the ones that take down PSG.
I love the narratives at play here, dude. I really do. PSG, this is not the same side we've seen over the last 10 years.
At all, bro.
This isn't post-Barca Messi and Neymar's PSG. This isn't superstar Kylian Mbappe's PSG. This isn't the PSG that had Marco Verratti running the midfield.
Wow, I forgot
This
about
isn't the PSG of Zlatan Ibrahimovic post-Milan. These are all players who have something to prove. They're hungry, and they're all young. And that's what I love about this PSG side. The only player that has remained since their finals appearance in 2020 is Marquinhos. And I absolutely love that. Luis Enrique has really gathered these 11 players and has them playing some really beautiful football. And the narrative for Arsenal, dude, it's just as strong. Arsenal in the 2010s have suffered. They have suffered for so long. And I think it's even hurt them a little bit more because they've always had good players. They've always had the talent in London, but it's never shown for anything. And finally, Mikel Arteta comes in and he completely changes everything. They may not have won anything under him yet, but they play some of the most beautiful offense that I've ever seen. And they are now in a
I don't even know if Arsenal fans would agree with that, but okay.
semifinals appearance here, hosting the first leg. I can't wait to see what happens. I'm going PSG, though. I'm going PSG solely due to the X factor in Dembele and Kvaratskhelia. I think they have a higher chance to score goals than, let's say, Bukayo Saka, Trossard, and Martinelli. To score not just any goals, but ridiculous goals. And you can also add in the X factor of Doué and Mendes and Hakimi from that offensive perspective. But Arsenal's going to be the team that really stretches them, so we'll get to really see PSG's defensive grit in this match. I still have it very tight, 55-45 maybe, but I'm going PSG.
Yeah, that's basically how I am, just flip. I think it's that close. I think it's that exciting. And at the end of the day, I'd be happy for either team. I really would. Like, as a neutral going into this game, I think the narratives for both are incredible, bro. Mouth-watering narratives that we're trying to follow here. PSG doing it would be so dope to see and so huge for their history. And if Arsenal makes it to the final, man, oh God, the commentary online, the things we're gonna see from Arsenal Fan TV and everything we've seen online, dude, it's gonna be incredible to watch. So please let us know down below, who do you have winning between Arsenal and PSG?
All right, I mean, both of them see the upcoming games to be very tight, 55-45. He edges it to Arsenal, he edges it to PSG. Fairly decent points. He's talking about the belief. He's talking about PSG having the moments player, obviously the Champions League being a moments tournament. All right, moving on to the next one. we have Michael Talks Football.
Arsenal 180 minutes away from one of these two sides to advance to the final in Munich. Will Arsenal do it? Will they advance their second ever UCL final, or will PSG advance to their second ever UCL final? Welcome to the preview and prediction for the first semi-final matchup. We will have a separate video for the Inter and Barcelona. I had to separate the two videos, people. There's a lot to discuss when it comes to these two matches. So get your prediction in the comments down below. Who will advance to the final in Munich? Will it be Paris Saint-Germain or Arsenal? So there's many ways to break this down. Obviously, these two teams met earlier on in the league phase of the UCL. Arsenal won 2-0. I rewatched the game last week. Arsenal completely dominated the game. They gave nothing to PSG. Yeah, PSG hit the post with João Neves, but overall their attacking play was completely nullified by Arsenal's defense. Now, people will give the reasoning that PSG have completely transformed their form, their style of play since that matchup. And I would say yes, PSG have completely transformed in the way of how they press, how direct they are when they get the ball, and the way they control games. But to counteract that statement about PSG improving, I think Arsenal are getting better and better. They are finding the form at the right time of the season when it comes to this matchup, because Arsenal haven't lost a game since I think February 22nd. They dominated Real Madrid. They destroyed PSV in the knockout stages of the UCL so far. Arsenal have scored 14 goals and have only conceded 4 goals. Arsenal are in such good form. They're finding a beautiful blend of the attacking style and defensive shape that we know Arteta has built under this team. But there seems to be a mentality switch for this Arsenal team. Many Arsenal fans before that Real Madrid matchup were fearing that, oh man, we are so light in the back. Our attack is faltering at the moment. But the Arsenal players and the manager, they had different ideas. And I think that's now a real mentality switch from the players, the manager, and now I think the fans have a real belief in this team again. Because it's been a difficult season for Arsenal. They've dealt with many injuries.
And I agree with that. When it comes to the mentality, there's definitely been a mentality shift. Arsenal after that two-legged tie versus
Not out of the FA
Madrid.
Cup, League Cup, not in the Premier League title race anymore. So for Arsenal, the Champions League is everything for them. And with that Real Madrid matchup, we saw the real emergence, and I mean real emergence of Declan Rice. He completely dominated the midfield without the ball, with the ball, on set pieces. That was his two best games in the Arsenal kit, and he needs to continue those performances going up against a midfield of Vitinha, João Neves, and Fabian Ruiz. Then we saw excellent play from Luis Skelly and Timber. Timber this season, the stocks are rising, people. The stocks are rising like crazy, and Luis Skelly, yeah, those stocks are not so low at the moment. They're at medium level, but they could get even higher and higher. So invest right now on Luis Skelly. You gotta give credit to Jakob Kivior, Saliba. So defensively, Arsenal are solid. They know what they need to do. They need to nullify PSG out wide with either Kvara, Barcola, or Dembele. Now, people will talk about Arsenal in the attacking phase. How will they get the goals? You know, whether it's Saka, Martinelli, Mikel Merino, who's been stepping up big time recently. But of course, Partey is suspended for the first leg in this tie. So maybe in the first leg, we're going to see a midfield of Merino, Ødegaard, and Declan Rice. And I think that will work out well. And then Trossard in the false nine. But Saka, I mean, those two games against Real Madrid, he absolutely sent Alaba to the retirement home. I know Alaba has Kenny Smith knees right now, and God bless him because he's still going out there at his age and he's had a fantastic career. But Alaba looked like an old man versus Saka. I mean, Saka just tormented him over and over again. And Saka's going to have a brilliant game going up against one of the best left backs in the world in Nuno Mendes. So Arsenal have all the pieces to nullify PSG. Good defensively, counter-attacking. We saw a better counter-attacking team against Real Madrid, and that's what Arsenal are going to have to do. But at home, you expect Arsenal to take the game to PSG. Exactly how they did against Real Madrid. They knew Real Madrid, they were faltering, they knew they were vulnerable, and Arsenal said, cool, we're going to take advantage of it. They were hammerhead sharks in the Caribbean Sea, and they smelt the blood. They went for it. And that's exactly what Arsenal have to do in this matchup. They know PSG are a very good attacking team, very good in possession. So how do you disrupt that? You got to take the game. High pressing, win the ball back high up the field, counter-attacking quickly with the likes of Martinelli, who was really good against Real Madrid. And we saw PSG in that Aston Villa tie, especially in the second half, the first 25 minutes, flustered. Even the Liverpool second half away at Anfield, PSG were not great. I mean, Liverpool had a couple of chances in the game. Liverpool took the game to PSG, and you saw PSG kind of flustered in that situation. And overall, this season in the Champions League, Arsenal have lost a grand total of 1 game. And that 1 game was to Inter. And I think Arsenal had like, what, 20 corners in that game. They weren't really dangerous on the set pieces. So Arsenal overall this season in the UCL have been brilliant. They're going to have to continue that form against the PSG side. And right now, PSG are trying to collect all the Infinity Stones of the Premier League. They beat Liverpool, they beat Aston Villa, and one more Infinity Stone is Arsenal. And people can be critical of PSG in the way they played it against Aston Villa in the second half. But overall, for about 145 minutes, PSG dominated Aston Villa. They were 5-1 up in the tie, looking like they were going to cruise to victory and cruise to the semifinal. If PSG won that tie over Aston Villa with a 5-1, 6-2 aggregate scoreline, I think people would have more praise for PSG. But they saw how...
And for me, that's the exact thing. Footballistically, that game was 1-5-1. Or at least in my opinion. Maybe I'm biased. But that's how it was supposed to end. It was beating Liverpool at Anfield, smacking up Aston Villa, and now coming up against Arsenal. But just because we conceded those 3 goals, maybe I'm underrating it. I don't know. I don't think so, but if that ended differently, fuck, man. So, I'm so mad. Well, I don't know why they did that, man. I don't know why they did that, man.
How they kind of capitulated in that second half against Aston Villa. And so what really happened? Well, PSG just lost complete control of the game. They didn't keep possession well. Vitinha had a poor game. João Neves couldn't get involved. And you just saw the team absolutely lose it mentally. They didn't know how to combat Aston Villa's high pressing, the directness of Aston Villa. After Asensio had that one missed chance, then PSG once again controlled the game and were looking dangerous on the counter-attack. I think that's the introduction of Desiree Doué into the game. So if you're Luis Enrique, you got to go with the Fab 3 right now. You got to go with Dembele, of course, Kvara, of course, and Desiree Doué. PSG have the weapons to hurt Arsenal. You're going to have a brilliant game from Dembele. If Dembele continues this form, he's up there for the Ballon d'Or, but he's going to have to keep performing because Kvara is going to have a very tough game against Timber. Timber has locked down many forwards this season, but we know the brilliance of Kvara. He's going to have a better game than what he showed at Villa Park, because I kind of feel bad for Kvara because he was mostly down the right, and I'm like, Kvara is just brilliant on the left wing. Keep him mostly there. We know the fluidity of the front three for PSG. They're very direct, very technically gifted, but they're going up against a very good Arsenal defense. But one thing that PSG have compared to Real Madrid that Arsenal are going up against, PSG, they know their identity. They know exactly where the movement of each player is at. Whereas with Real Madrid are just a bunch of kids who met up at a pickup game in some random park and said, hey guys, try and figure it out. No, Luis Enrique and his team, they know exactly what they want to do. Whether it's Hakimi or Nuno Mendes kind of inverting into the midfield, or sometimes Hakimi doing an overlapping run on the right side, Nuno Mendes doing an overlapping run on the left side. PSG have various ways to attack the opposition, and that's what makes them a dangerous team. And on the counter-attack, yeah, they are the most frightening team right now. The speed, I mean, we saw the speed of Dembele, Barcola, Nuno Mendes, Hakimi highlighted in that Aston Villa game. That second goal that PSG scored against Villa, I mean, what a brilliant team goal from them. The one thing PSG have got to figure it out is when they feel the adversity, how do you overcome it? You know Arsenal are going to keep possession. You know Arsenal are going to have the chances in this game. Who will be the leader in the back line? Marquinhos has to do a better job. Bacho, who had a really rough game against Villa, but made a crucial block at the end. Those two got to step up for PSG. So individual battles to watch in this tie.
Yeah, especially at the game at the Emirates. I see it somewhat being a bit similar to the Liverpool away game. Obviously, most away games are a bit similar where we have to survive. Donnarumma has to make some important saves. Marquinhos, Bacho has to make some important clearances. It has to be another resilient defensive performance from Paris Saint-Germain. I think in this game, the focus is way more on defense because Arsenal will give us opportunities and then it's just about taking them. But defensively, we have to be very focused this game.
No doubt is Nuno Mendes versus Saka. That is going to be absolute cinema to see. Can Saka get the best of Nuno Mendes? How will Nuno Mendes defend against Saka while also trying to go forward? Also, Vitinha going up against Odegaard, João Neves possibly going up against Declan Rice, and Vara up against Timber. I mean, there's so many good individual battles, such good forward play, such good defensive play from Arsenal specifically. PSG can defend well, but it's just about a mentality thing for me when it comes to them defensively. And two very good goalkeepers in David Raya and Donnarumma. This is very tough. 50-50 tie, like I said at the beginning of this video. Arsenal have a good momentum right now in the Champions League. I don't really care about league form right now. For both of these teams, everything is the UCL. PSG have wrapped up the League 1. Arsenal are not in the Premier League title race. It's all about the UCL right now for both teams. And both managers, Arteta, Luis Enrique, they know what's at stake here. For Arteta, if he could win a UCL, all the injuries that Arsenal have suffered this season, it'll be a great job by him for Luis Enrique to reach a UCL final after Mbappe leaving the club. I mean, Luis Enrique's stock will go crazy. And it's fascinating to think how will both managers approach this tie. I think for Arteta, he's going to use the exact same tactics as he did against Real Madrid in the first leg, and the same exact tactics as he did in the second leg against Real Madrid. Take the game to PSG at home, while in the second leg, sit back and be clinical on the counter-attack. While Luis Enrique will always try and play his style of football away from home, at home. It doesn't matter. It could be on Pluto, Mars, wherever, Amazon. Always PSG want to control the game, get Vitinha on the ball as many times as possible. So it's a very interesting stylistical matchup for both managers. You have a very good defense in Arsenal with a clinical attack at the moment, while PSG are a force going forward, can be a liability defensively, and a very good midfield. So what gives? Which team will advance to Munich? I think for me, I think the first leg will tell me everything. If Arsenal can win that first leg, they can be defensively solid in the second leg and frustrate PSG. Whereas if PSG get a draw away at London, I think that will give them a massive psychological boost in the home leg in Paris. I think this is going to be fireworks. I think this is going to be so tantalizingly close between the two teams. There's small margins, people, but that's usually the UCL. The UCL is always defined by the small margins. So my prediction, I think Arsenal are going to do it. I think Arsenal will advance to the UCL final, which is kind of crazy to say with all the injuries they have suffered. But there's something about this team right now with the momentum they're building, and there's no disrespect to PSG. If PSG collect all the Infinity Stones of the Premier League teams, beating Man City, beating Liverpool, beating Aston Villa, beating Arsenal, then those two YouTubers who are talking about this team couldn't finish top 4 in the Premier League, yeah, you might want to delete that video. And I wouldn't be surprised if PSG advance. Like I said before, this 50-50 tie, I just have a feeling that Arsenal are going to do it, and they're going to advance to the UCL final. Should be a great...
All right. Another person that feels this tie is 50-50, which most people are feeling, and as I think it's PSG are a slight favorite at least in this game. But yeah, that's their opinion, and I don't think it's a bad opinion. I think Arsenal, what they've shown in the UCL this season, I think what Paris Saint-Germain have shown in the UCL this season, both teams are, deserving to be in this Champions League semi-final. And when you are in a Champions League semi-final, it's a tie game. It's tie game. And as many YouTubers have said, them, I've said as well, like this semi-final, I like it a lot. I remember last season we had Madrid, Bayern, PSG, Dortmund. PSG, Dortmund, you like PSG at least 65% to go through. Obviously, we didn't go through. So maybe this one's it favors us because I believe last season versus Dortmund we were a bit arrogant. Maybe losing the unbeaten streak, losing the game versus Villa, the narrative's changing. Actually, it's a good thing for the PSG players so that they do not come in arrogant. Like the players cannot come in arrogantly into this game. They're not arrogant at the moment. It's not going well for them. They have conceded, I think, 8 goals in their last 4 games. Defeat versus Nice, losing unbeaten streak. Defeat versus Aston Villa, changing the narrative. So, honestly, after watching all of these videos, seeing, the people's thoughts about this game and so on, you know what? Let's look at the positive. I think, because the thing I'm really mad at the players at the moment is that arrogance, is that complacency. So, yeah, it's pretty much impossible after everything that's happened for PSG players to go and be arrogant. Could be the opposite though. Arsenal fans are very arrogant. I don't know about the Arsenal players in their mind. I can't guess. But I think they are obviously very confident after that tie versus Madrid. But if they look too much into beating us 2-0 in the beginning of the season, if they look too much on these narratives and agendas and everything, they might become a bit arrogant, and that I think will play into Paris Saint-Germain's hands perfectly. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Not that bad of a video, but honestly, all of the people I reacted to all made fair points, despite them, wanting PSG or Arsenal to go through. That don't matter. All of them obviously said it was tie game. It was just that Bervin guy, just heavy agenda. But yeah, hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video, and as usual, allez, bye.